Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp, joined as always. Wait, nope, not joined by anybody. Thanks for being here. Pleasure to have everyone here. This is a good. This is gonna be a fun show. This is gonna be one of the fun ones. I am going to break down the Trump Zelensky meeting. And I know you've already heard about the Trump Zelensky meeting that has been talked about in every mainstream outlet, in every independent outlet. I am not saying you haven't. However, I have been kind of shocked at how much it seems everyone is getting at least large aspects of it wrong. At least our large aspects in terms of the deeper meaning of what's going on here wrong. And I titled this video, this episode, a little exaggerationally, a little histrionically. I don't know. Anyway, I said everyone has the Trump Zelensky meeting wrong. Obviously, not everyone does. There are people who got it right, but it does seem like a surprising swath of right wingers, left wingers, liberals. They seem to be coming down on the sides of either look at hero Trump, he's amazing, look at what he did to Zelensky, oh my God, what a hero, or they're coming down on the look at moron Trump, what a dipshit, he is just feeding everything to Russia and ruining America because we don't get to keep killing Ukrainians or whatever. But I think that both sides are kind of missing the deeper understanding of what the hell is going on here, and I would like to get to some of that. I think it's important. I know you've already seen the meeting or you've seen parts of it, whatever. That's kind of not the point. So I'm going to be getting into that. I'm also going to be getting on into what's going on in Israel as they have decided to stop all aid going in to Gaza. Now that we've gotten to the end of phase 1 of the ceasefire, even though Israel has broken much of what they agreed to in the ceasefire. But I'm also going to get to kind of defining this billionaires coup that's going on. I also don't think that's a great name for it, but that is what the article I'm going to be quoting from some is titled "The Billionaires Coup," and I will be saying, well, I'll be explaining why that's not a great name for it. So all of that and more is coming up right now. Thank you, Philip, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. And for any of you who have been living in a cave, Unredacted Tonight has started. We're 2 episodes in. Episode 3 comes out this Thursday. And if you have missed both of the first 2 episodes, I don't know why you would do that. I don't know how that is possible. Unredacted Tonight, you can watch on my YouTube channel, you can watch on my Rumble, you can watch everywhere. Probably the quickest place, easiest to remember is linktree.com/LeeCamp. But okay, let's get into some of this meeting. And I think you'll see where I differ from so much of the coverage. How fast would you guys like to hear this? Because I can't stand these people at normal speed. How about we'll take it easy. We'll go 1.1 speed. Okay.
One more question.
I would respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy.
Now, as sad as it is to say, J.D. Vance right there is correct. He is absolutely correct. There should be diplomacy. Of course, if you want the other side of it, this is laughable coming from an administration. How much is Trump sitting down with Gazans, sitting down with Palestinians? How much is he sitting down with Iran and really talking with them? What are their concerns? How much is he really sitting down with Cuba or Venezuela and saying, let's really discuss what are our differences? Zero. And then some of the other people he is sitting down with. Thank you, Philip, again for supporting the show. Thank you so much, Arlene, for supporting the show. Yes, I love that you guys are diving in with the sport early. That so often doesn't happen. And Arlene and Philip, killing it. Thank you. Anyway, so this idea that JD Vance is sort of, hey, we got this great diplomatic president. Well, you're correct in the case of Ukraine and Russia. you are absolutely incorrect in other areas of the world. He is not Mr. Diplomacy. He assassinated Iran's general last time he was president, top general who is largely given credit for defeating ISIS. He assassinated that guy, killed multiple Iraqi politicians and generals as well in that strike, even though Iraq was supposedly our ally. What kind of diplomacy is that? And of course, he did that without speaking to Iran at all. So you need to have both sides of this, right? It's not just Trump and Vance are idiots or Zelensky's idiot. You need to have both sides. JD Vance is correct. We need diplomacy. We fucking need it now. We need a peace plan. We need peace. JD Vance also the festering pile of garbage inside a suit, inside a nice expensive suit. Let's keep going.
We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what.
Except for all the countries I just listed. Except for all the times they haven't engaged in diplomacy when Trump was president. So thank you, Stolen TPS Reports, for supporting the show. So it's important to understand what you're dealing with here. But the deepest of meanings that it seems that so many people are missing, again, not everyone, even though I put everyone in the title because I need you to click it. But also it'd be weird if I listed the 5 people that are getting it right in the title. That'd be a weird title. But the other thing is the core of this that so many people are missing is we created this mess intentionally. Not accidentally, intentionally. The U.S. facilitated and funded and in some ways armed and made sure it catalyzed the 2014 Maidan coup. That is when a lot of this started. The 2014 Maidan coup. At that point, Putin knew that the United States was putting in a puppet. And of course, there's leaked phone calls from Victoria Nuland talking about who the puppet was that they were going to put in there in Ukraine to do whatever the U.S. wanted. So at that point, Putin knows the United States has essentially couped a country that is former Soviet bloc, that is attached to Russia. And that's when his concerns, let's call them, began. Anyway, we'll get more into that as we keep going. Let's keep going.
What President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just.
So again, multiple things are going on here. Zelensky is trying to educate them on the history of what went down here. And it appears that they are genuinely uneducated as to some of what went down, starting back in 2013, 2014. However, Zelensky is also lying, or he's leaving out large parts of the history. So he says Putin, overtook parts of Ukraine in 2014. He mentions Crimea. Now, that is true in a certain sense. Crimea was traditionally Russian. Russia gave it to Ukraine, not that long ago, I don't know, 100 years ago or something, as kind of a gift. But you've got to understand that much of Ukraine is Russian culture, Russian speaking, Russian language. Many of them have dual passports. That many of them do not view themselves as just Ukrainian or just Russian. And in 2014, in February of 2014, is the Maidan coup, the U.S. literally, propping up neo-Nazis to take down the government of Ukraine and then putting in a puppet that the U.S. could control. That happens February. March is when Putin goes into Crimea and has a vote as to whether Crimea would like to be part of Russia. Crimea votes to become part of Russia. Now, why was that 1 month after the Maidan coup? Because that's how Putin viewed the Maidan coup. Was basically the U.S. has created a coup in Ukraine and put in a puppet. That's how he viewed it. You can argue about how to view that, but that's what's being left out in Zelensky's little history here. Let's keep going.
Biden. But those time was Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact was?
But of course, if you were to ask Putin, Putin would say, yeah, but no one stopped the U.S. from creating a coup and putting in a U.S. puppet in 2014. So that would be Putin's side of it. Of course, all of that gets left out.
2015.
See, Trump then says 2015 because he literally doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't, I don't think Trump remembers. It's not that he's never heard of it, but I don't think Trump remembers what the Maidan coup is. And I don't think Trump knows that the U.S. did it. And I could be wrong. I think there's people in his orbit who know, but I don't think Trump knows honestly what went on in 2014 or 2015. Well, 2014. He's saying 2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah.
This is like the dumb kid in the class who got he's like, what, 2015? Oh, I wasn't here then. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't even. He's not saying you were there, you idiot. Like, Zelensky's a moron in other ways. He is a puppet of the U.S. empire. He was a puppet when he first got into power. He was funded by a billionaire oligarch in Ukraine who now has had the tides have shifted on him and he's in prison in Ukraine. But Zelensky's just gone from being one person's puppet to another.
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him.
So there's another way that Zelensky is misconstruing things. He says people have been dying since 2014. A lot of Russians were also killed going into 2014 and since 2014. Thousands of culturally Russian people in the Donbass region were killed, some by Nazis, maybe some by non-Nazis, but whatever, because they were Russian. So it's that he makes it sound like Putin was just killing people and there was no anything else going on. But in fact, Putin partially invaded because of the thousands of Russians who were murdered in Donbass. Again, you can argue about whether Putin should be able to do that, Putin should be allowed to do that, whether he should have done that. You can have that argument. But Zelensky wants you to leave all of that out because he wants this alternate history of what happened.
You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversations, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broke the ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners.
So there's Zelensky lying. It was largely Ukraine that violated the Minsk Accord, the Minsk agreements. There were two of them. And like he says, it was signed off by France and Germany as well. And Merkel has since admitted that that they never intended to, and other officials have admitted that the Minsk agreements were designed to just buy time to heavily arm Ukraine to fight Russia. That the Minsk agreement, they never intended to actually keep up their end of the bargain. Merkel has admitted this. It was a time to just arm Ukraine and prepare for the Russian invasion that they were going to force, and they knew they were going to force that. It's been admitted. And so this is how the U.S. and our Western allies, which are steadily becoming not allies, but European allies, created this proxy war. And Leon Panetta, the former defense secretary, former head of the CIA, has admitted it's a proxy war. Boris Johnson, who was pivotal in this, has admitted it's a proxy war. Many of these people have admitted that the Minsk agreements were just designed to buy time. And so Zelensky is giving you the fake history of what went down, and he's trying to educate J.D. Vance and Trump. And if you look at Trump's face right now, what's going on is he's getting angry that he's being made to look stupid. And I know that people just want to make this meeting between Trump and Zelensky. Oh, Trump batted down Zelensky. And look, I want peace. I want a peace agreement signed now. And Trump seems to be bringing that. So I actually support where Trump's headed in this area of the world, in this action he's taking. I think it should be peace. I think we should step away from this brink of nuclear war. But this meeting that goes on here is not just, oh, look at Trump, he's awesome, or, oh, look at Zelensky, poor Zelensky got beat up by bully Trump. No, there is so much more going on. And I think what's actually happening right there as Trump sits there is he knows that this is being nationally televised and he's being educated incorrectly, because I just told you how Zelensky's lying, but Trump doesn't really know, I don't think, what went down in 2014, 2015, whatever. Trump doesn't care. He may have had a history lesson from advisors at some point, but he probably wasn't listening. And so he knows that. How does this look on national television? Like, if you were to just cut it off right there, it looks like Zelensky is educating Trump and JD Vance because they're idiots. That's what it looks like. And that's why Trump then proceeds to not just shoot him down. Trump would have shot him down no matter what, because he doesn't want Zelensky's path forward, which seems to be endless war. But the reason he shut him down so publicly and cruelly and humiliatingly is because of this. It's because he's sitting there educating them in a condescending way. You know, here's what happened. And he's lying about half of it. By the way, Aaron Mate has also posted that, Zelensky, the last thing Zelensky said there in that clip was Putin never exchanged prisoners. And Aaron Mate posted a clip of Zelensky receiving the released prisoners like a celebration, like, yay, prisoners have been released. And yet here is Zelensky saying he never released the prisoners.
We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but
sorry, I cut him off there. So JD Vance has, again, it's incorrect, but JD Vance doesn't. I don't think he also knows exactly what happened in 2014. But either way, that's a complete dodge. Like, right? Like, I'm talking about diplomacy that ends things. It's like, you can't address any of the things he just said. No, because JD Vance doesn't actually know this stuff. He just knows that they're not going to keep supporting endless war in Ukraine.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine?
So then he moves on to how much he should be thanking the president, which is just like, when you're talking about a U.S. empire that created a war in your country so that they could drain Russia, quote unquote, so that they could sanction Russia, so that they could blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. The U.S. This was crafted by people like the higher ups in the U.S. government from like the start, from a long time ago. This was crafted, and you should thank us for having set up this proxy war. You should thank us for having set up this war that has killed so many of your people that you're having to grab men off the street and throw them into vans to be soldiers because you don't have enough soldiers because most of your military-age men have been murdered. Like, the idea of you should thank us for this proxy war is like fucking... And so the people saying, yeah, Trump shot down Zelensky. I will say, yeah, Trump seems to be moving towards a peace agreement in Ukraine. That I will be glad about. That I will, say is positive. But to act like Trump's a hero because he sat here saying, you should thank America for doing this for you. Again, Boris Johnson has called it a proxy war. And Boris Johnson loves this proxy war, by the way. He's cheerleading for it more than anyone. Leon Panetta, former head of the Defense Department, has said it's a proxy war. And those are just the ones that say it publicly. A lot of others say it quietly.
Do you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what.
It continues to get so stupid. Zelensky's like, have you come to see? Like, basically, have you been in Ukraine? I think that is a dumb argument, okay? The idea of have you been there? Because that also would imply that I can't talk about how Israel's committing genocide in Gaza because I haven't been to Gaza right now. Bullshit. You can know things without being places. So that's a dumb argument from Zelensky. But then you've got J.D. Vance, who's another charlatan over there wearing guy liner for some unknown reason, who goes, well, I have seen things on TV, which is like, it's just, it's stupid from all sides. It's stupid from all sides. And by the way, I don't think it's in this clip, but what happened before this got started was one of the first questions from reporters from some right-wing reporter goon that Trump now has in the White House. I think the first question to Zelensky was, isn't it disrespectful you're not wearing a suit? Why aren't you here in a suit? Oh, who gives a shit? Yes, Zelensky is dressed up like a clown. He's dressed up in a little military outfit. Is that I don't know if that's the Azov symbol on his vest there, but he's dressed up in his little I'm a military man outfit, even though he's not on the front lines. Why is he dressed up? Normally he's wearing military green. Dressed up like a little military man because it's supposed to be a military time. Stupid. But you're telling me Trump and J.D. Vance aren't dressed up in their own clown show? Like, Trump has on more makeup than anybody you've ever seen. Like, he has his hair combed in 48 different directions to try and cover up the fact he's bald. J.D. Vance is a fake guy who got famous for writing about being from West Virginia when he's not from West Virginia, funded by a tech billionaire, and wears guy liner. It's all a clown show. It's an ass clown show, all right? It's an ass clown circus. It is a circus of ass clowns. And the idea, like, you don't have a suit on, so that makes you disrespectful. Oh, please. It's all theater.
What happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree?
I forgot to mention, in it all being theater, J.D. Vance is in his position because he had a popular movie based on a book that wasn't true that he pretended was true. Trump is president because he was a host of a game show for 12 years or whatever it was that all of America watched and thought that he actually was a leader because this game show made him look good. Zelensky is president of Ukraine because he was a popular comedian who pretended to be president in a TV show that was funded by a billionaire and aired 24/7. So the people of Ukraine got so used to seeing this former clown. I get it. I'm a clown too. I'm a comedian, but I'm not trying to be president. They got so used to seeing this clown as the president in the TV show that was popular in Ukraine that when he actually ran for president, they go, hey, that's the guy we wanted to see as president. We saw it in the TV show. And it was the same with Donald Trump. They're all clowns. Donald Trump is president of the quote unquote free world, dumb term, because he was a game show host. Zelensky is president of Ukraine because he was a TV president. Like, that's the world we're in right now. It's all theater. This is all bullshit. Thank you again, Philip, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. He says Zelensky wore a suit when he did penile piano playing vaudeville. Yeah, I think I still have the headline in the lower ticker here that says Zelensky steps down from president, hopes the TV show where he dresses up as a giant penis will have him back. Thank you, Philip, for supporting the show. Really appreciate the super chats. By the way, you can throw in an extra couple of bucks. Even if you're not watching this live, you can push the thanks button and throw in a couple of dollars. But of course, I'd really love for you to become a member at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp, especially if you want to see Unredacted tonight. Keep going, because that is a far more expensive show to produce than this is. But anyway, let's keep going.
Agree that you've had problems bringing people in your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval?
Do you agree with that problem bringing in the military? Why do they have so few human men left in Ukraine? Because the U.S. created a proxy war so that they could throw these people into a meat grinder, and they're dead because of us. So J.D. Vance is excoriating Zelensky. Now, here's the thing. I'm also not on Zelensky's side because A, I want peace, but B, Zelensky could have had peace a month into this thing when almost no one had died. There was a peace deal on the table It was going to be signed. Zelensky was going to sign it. Putin was going to sign it. It was going to be over. And then Boris Johnson, as a representative of the U.S. and Western Empire, went running to Zelensky and said, if you sign that, we're not going to support you. We're not going to give you security guarantees. We're not going to give you funding. We're not going to give you anything. And Zelensky, as a good puppet should do, said, okay, yes, sir, I'll do whatever you want. So neither of these people deserve any credit for anything, really. Thank you, Wilfred Constant. Really appreciate you supporting the show. Thank you so much.
Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to.
It's just so stupid. It's so childish. He's saying you have a big ocean between you and these problems. You're going to feel it eventually. You know, whatever. But and then Trump, don't tell us what we're going to feel. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. Trump has finally found it in where he can scream at Zelensky like a bully. Zelensky, like I said, is lying up and down. He's both full of shit and he's a puppet. It's just such a sad show. And instead, so much of the coverage of it has been Trump rules. Trump's a bully. How about both? How about both? How about none? How about I don't understand why you have to pick a side of these two assholes. Don't pick a side. Yes, I want peace in Ukraine. It doesn't mean I think Trump's a good guy. He literally got in that same Oval Office and said, we're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza. It's going to be ours. We're going to just kick out all the Palestinians. Thank you. Good night. This is the guy we're supposed to say, hey, what a hero.
Feel very good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Playing cards.
Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
Mr. President.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry. This is like, Trump is so childish. I mean, Zelensky's childish in his own way, but Trump's way of debating. You don't have any cards to play. We're not playing cards. Oh, you're playing cards. Let me tell you how you're playing cards. Let me list the ways that you are playing cards. What the fuck are you talking about, you idiot? This could be this whole thing. All this dumb shittery could be shrunk down to like 2 sentences. The U.S. created a proxy war in Ukraine to drain Russia and try and cut them off from Europe in order to try and maintain hegemony. Now, the current administration of the U.S. is abandoning that effort. And the puppet in Ukraine is upset. Sorry, that was 3 sentences. The puppet in Ukraine is upset. You know why the puppet in Ukraine is upset? Because you know what happens to world leaders who we support and then we abandon, who we support in some kind of war or effort or something like that, and then we abandon? They usually get hanged, sliced up in the streets, locked up in a prison for their entire lives. That's usually where they end up. Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Noriega, the list goes on. The U.S. likes you, and then they don't, and they leave you to be sliced up. And that seems to be where Zelensky is headed, and he knows that. And so all he can do is keep fighting for more guns and missiles and things sent by the U.S. It doesn't matter how much it puts us into nuclear war territory. It's his only option. If he's lucky, he'll end up in prison.
You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Okay. You want the analysis of that? That seems to be vacant on so many other shows. Trump is right. Ukraine is gambling with World War III. It could kill millions. That is insane. You know what else? The U.S. has been gambling with World War III during this entire thing. This was the U.S.'s creation. This was our monster. We were gambling with World War III. Okay. And yes, it was initially under Obama. Then it moved under to Trump. Then it moved under Biden. Then now it's back under Trump. And Trump is abandoning that effort to push us towards World War III. But here's another aspect of it that seems to be vacant from a lot of these. You're playing with human lives. He says you're playing with millions of lives or thousands of lives or whatever. He says, what about Gaza? What about what the U.S. and Israel are doing in Gaza? Is that not playing with lives? 48,000 people murdered by Israel in the span of a year, a little over a year? Is that not playing with lives? That is funded and armed by the United States. The U.S. ships missiles to Israel to bomb children every 36 hours. Trump got into that same Oval Office sitting next to Netanyahu, had a shit-eating grin on his face, and he said, basically, we're going to ethnically cleanse Gaza. And yeah, he didn't use those words, but tell me what you'd call it. When he says, we're going to clear out Gaza, we're going to pave it over, replace all the buildings. And when asked whether Palestinians could come back, his only answer was to say, well, why would they want to? Because he didn't want to say the truth, which is, no, we're not going to let Palestinians come back. We're going to give it all to Israel.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly.
Have you noticed that, again, even if I support where Trump is headed, which is to end this war, Trump's way of arguing, because he largely can't argue the points. He doesn't even know what happened in 2014. So instead, his way of arguing is just to pick apart some dumb shit. You are playing cards. Yeah, that guy's not talking loudly. Like, imagine if you shrunk all of Trump's argument points down to like 4 sentences. You are playing cards. That guy's not talking loudly. You need to say thank you. You'd be like, this guy is insane.
Your country is in big trouble. Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said,
you know what would blow up this whole thing is if Zelensky actually told the truth and said that you guys created this. The Maidan coup was yours. You put pro-Western people into power in order to get at Russia and in order to stop the Nord Stream pipeline and in order to try and maintain your petrodollar hegemony. If he were to say that, dude, that would have blown up this meeting. Trump would have had no answer to that. No, I know he just yelled at him, you're playing cards, but it'd be no answer. But Zelensky can't do that. He's got to continue this charade that it was all natural, that it was Ukraine and the U.S. just showed up right after Putin invaded. The U.S. was like, maybe we'll help them. Really? If that started the moment Putin invaded, then why is there New York Times articles saying that the CIA was there in 2014 and likely there far before 2014? But the New York Times has admitted the CIA was training and arming Ukrainians to go into Russia as early as 2014, years before Putin invaded. Funny that. You know what? The other thing that probably would have, this wouldn't have blown up the meeting. This would have just eased everything over. I think they would have become best pals. Is if the two of these guys just slightly pivoted to how they both love Nazis. I feel like that would have been some real common ground there. Trump would be like, hey, my top guy is sick heiling at the inauguration. And Zelensky would be like, dude, my closest security guards literally have swastikas on their helmets. So, yeah, I love them. You love them. Look at the camaraderie here. How great is this? I think it really would have brought them together. Honestly, brought them back. Brought them back together.
Thanks.
You haven't been
this
allowed.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
We gave
for
you
your
military equipment.
You
And you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
in 3
okay?
days.
That is true. If they didn't have the military equipment, it would have been over in 2 weeks. It also would have been over 2 weeks if the U.S. had let him sign the peace deal. It's like, oh.
I heard it from Putin in 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course,
It's
yes.
going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
Accept
times
that there,
thank you
accept
to
that,
American people.
accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media.
All JD Vance is saying right there is we don't normally do this in front of the cameras. Like this type of shit, I'm sure it goes on all the time behind closed doors. This is probably quite common to have. Most common is probably the U.S. yelling at other countries, but world leaders behind closed doors saying, you know, this is untenable for us. We can't fucking go like this. But in front of cameras, almost never. Because normally they have enough like awareness of the situation to know that it doesn't generally help them. But I think Trump got so upset about being educated about 2014, really being like as if he was a school child with a teacher standing there. And again, Zelensky was lying about 2014, but that didn't change the way it looked. That Trump and JD Vance were like, oh, well, now we're going to eviscerate him.
When you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I
over
understand,
there.
sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. But there's also the other quiet part that's not being said is this meeting. One of the key things on the table for this meeting was supposed to be the mineral guarantees, basically the extraction guarantees that Ukraine was going to give the U.S. $500 billion of resources that the U.S. is basically saying, you know, we in order for us to protect you from Russia, we've created this proxy war. We've gotten most of your military edge men killed. We've destroyed a lot of your society, but now you owe us $500 billion in minerals. And that was the deal that was supposed to be signed. It has not now been signed, but it seems like it still likely will. But it's just straight up, I mean, it's straight up extortion. Like, we create this thing, we kill half their country or allow it to be killed or put it in a position to be killed. And then we're going to extort $500 billion of minerals out of them. And there's another reason that the U.S. needs those minerals, because a lot of the rare earth minerals that we get come from China. So if we're creating a trade war with China, they're going to cut those off, and the U.S. has to find other places to get them. Well, where can the U.S. get them? Well, we get some from Ukraine. We get some from a partnership with Russia, which seems to be headed towards that. And we get some by stealing Greenland. So, and renaming it Red, White, and Blue Land. I don't know if I ever got around to covering that literally there was a bill put forward in Congress saying the U.S. should buy Greenland, steel, under extortion threat, and rename it Red, White, and Blue Land. Literally, Greenland would be renamed Red, White, and Blue Land, which has got to be a Colbert Report sketch from back in 2013. For those of you who don't remember Colbert Report, I pity you. But anyway, while that was going on, or no, actually before that happened, and it's tough to know how much the Trump administration knew about this, Ukraine and the UK have already signed a 100-year quote unquote partnership where Ukraine's going to be giving the UK a lot of their resources. Now, I don't know how this doesn't conflict with the deal. It also cements the UK as a preferred partner for Ukraine's energy sector, critical minerals, and green steel production. So how are they signing a 100-year deal with Ukraine for minerals and other things with the UK? And meanwhile, we're supposed to be Ukraine's supposed to also be signing a deal with the US to give them $500 billion of minerals. Seems to conflict. But let's say it doesn't conflict and they're going to give minerals to both, I guess. Is there going to be any of Ukraine left? Like, I've covered that before too, that you've got 25% of Ukraine's land is now in Russian hands as of right now. But even more than that 25% has been basically sold to multinational corporations, basically bought up. So in many ways, the U.S. and multinational corporations and BlackRock, et cetera, have stolen more Ukrainian land than Russia's got. This is us helping them. This is us facilitating Ukraine in their war. So between those two, and then you're giving away all your minerals, you're giving them and your oil, you're giving that to U.S., UK. What of Ukraine is actually going to be left? And you've got to remember that the U.S. views in the minds of the U.S. ruling elite, Ukraine is part of the former Soviet bloc. So in a lot of ways, the U.S. has succeeded in stealing part of what was the Soviet Union. The Ukraine is now basically in American hands, except for the 25% Russia's in charge of now. So that's another success for the U.S., at least right now, is to steal the resources, the land, the minerals of Ukraine. Because, yes, the former Soviet bloc is their own countries now. They're not all allied with Russia, but the U.S. has a long memory. The U.S. ruling elite have a long memory. And they view it as a win whenever they take portions of the world that used to be in the Soviet bloc, that used to be the Soviet Union. That's a win for the U.S. And so the U.S. created all of this. And I just like the analysis of this meeting. How many people were jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, Trump's so awesome. He smacked down Zelensky." It's like, dude, we created this proxy war, and it was created and in the works when Trump was in office last time. I'm not saying he knew much about it. I don't know how much he knew, but he certainly didn't stop what was happening. Here's another kind of tangentially related news story: is that Hegseth, the hairpiece that now runs the Department of Defense, has ordered the Pentagon to stop offensive cyber operations against Russia, which cyber operations means cyber attacks. I was unaware the U.S. had current cyber attacks against Russia, because I thought we're technically not at war with Russia. And I would think that cyber attacking Russia probably puts us on the brink of nuclear war, just like blowing up the Nord Stream did. So this is an admission. Yes, Hegseth apparently is stopping the Pentagon from doing it, but this is an admission by the U.S. military that we've been cyber attacking Russia this whole time. Boy, sure does sound like a proxy war. If only someone would tell the American people it's a proxy war, that would be something. Okay, I didn't realize how long that would take, so I'm running out of time. So let me speed up here. But I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't seen it, I really hope you will check out Unredacted tonight, my new comedy news show. Let's see here. People have really been enjoying it, and I think it's really good. So I hope you'll check it out. It comes out Thursday. 2 episodes are already out. Next one Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And it's free to watch on my YouTube, youtube.com/@unredactedtonight or youtube.com/moment of clarity. They both go the same place. But if you forget any of those things, you can just look up my link tree and it's got all my shit. Linktree.com/Lee Camp. And I would love if you watch an episode of Unredacted and you'd like to see it keep going. I would really love for you to become a member at patreon.com/Lee Camp or leecamp.net, my locals page. Those are the two places to support this show. And honestly, I don't know how I'll ever make it financially feasible to keep going with that show, but I'm giving it a try anyway. It's kind of like one of those Hail Marys where I want to have that show, so I'm just gonna do it for a while and see what happens. And if it keeps being ridiculously not financially sustainable, then eventually I guess I'll have no choice but to end it. But for the moment, if you want to support the show, I hope you will join up at linktree.com/Lee Camp will give you all my links, including how to support the show. But you can go to patreon.com/Lee Camp or leecamp.net. Okay. I thought this was a really fascinating article about the glossary of understanding, how to understand what they're calling the billionaires coup that is going on right now in our government. As you guys know, if you watch this show, it does not mean I disagree with everything Trump is doing. I support, USAID. It should be closed. It's a coup manufacturing organization around the globe. And the positive things that USAID was doing, those could be replaced by a company or organization or part of the government that is not a coup-making organization. That's what should happen. So there are things I support that Trump's doing. But all told, it's a war against you and me. It is a class war against you and me. The class war went on under Biden. It's going on under Trump. It's just sped up. Trump has sped up the class war against you and me. And if you really can't understand that, and you really just want to celebrate Daddy Trump, then I'm sorry, you're just ignoring the facts of what's going on here. The latest thing they're talking about gutting is Social Security. So if you can't understand why that's a negative and what Social Security does for people, then I can't help you. I did a segment last week on how them claiming that thousands or millions of dead people are receiving benefits is provably false, and you can disprove it in about 12 seconds with your own research. And so they're lying to you. Now, why would they lie to you? Because what do they really want to do to Social Security? They really want to gut it. They really want to decrease the benefits. They really want to make it almost impossible for those who need the benefits that you've paid into your entire life, or most people have. They want to take those away from you and further enrich the rich. Thank you, Mark Dansky, for supporting over on Rumble. Mark says, thanks for the tight, shareable breakdown of the meeting and details about Ukraine. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. Okay, so, and I got to be honest, some of this I did not know. So that's part of the reason I want to bring this to you is because I didn't know exactly what some of these terms meant. This is from Liberation News, and they go through some of the agencies that Trump is gutting and why it's important to him and Musk, President Mump, is what I call them, why it's important for President Mump to gut these departments. Office of Personnel Management. Now you hear Office of Personnel Management, and I don't know about you, but I fall asleep and my head hits the desk. It just sounds so boring. But it's the boring stuff is how you really take control, right? You take control of the boring stuff. It's a government agency that plays a similar role to human resources in a company, setting rules and managing benefits for the public sector workers. It is being used as a central tool to carry out President Mump's plan to impose mass layoffs. For instance, the infamous fork in the road email attempting to bully federal workers into resigning was sent by the Office of Personnel Management. So, sorry, I said why he needs to gut that. He's not gutting personnel management. He's using it as a tool to do the gutting of other agencies in the government. I want to see if I can get this number, but I might not be able to. So when people tell you that this is all unprecedented, President Clinton in the 90s fired loads of federal employees, and I'm trying to see if I can find the number. He said he would reduce 273,000 federal employees, cut them from the government. And I heard, although I don't know if it's in this article, I heard they ultimately fired about 400,000 federal employees. So a lot of this was already done under Clinton, and Clinton signed an act allowing $25,000 buyouts of federal workers. So when people say this is unprecedented, well, not all of it. Certain aspects are, but a lot of it is not. Clinton did some very similar shit. Thank you, Christopher, for supporting the show. Really appreciate that. Over in Sweden, huh? What's up? What's up, Sweden? Anyway, here's another one. Independent agency. So when you hear that, what does it mean? A government institution that is considered to be part of the executive branch, but is not part of a department led by a cabinet secretary. For instance, NASA is an independent agency. There's no NASA cabinet position. Many independent agencies are responsible for regulating big business. Regulating big business. When was the last time that happened? Security and Exchange Commission is responsible for regulating the stock market. Regulating the stock market. FCC makes decisions for highly important telecommunications corporations. Regulating telecommunications corporations. I'm sorry. This is funny. This is a funny article. Independent agencies are typically designed to have some degree of political independence, but Trump wants to change that. And how Trump is gaining some of these powers is he's doing the thing that has traditionally been viewed as illegal or outside of the president's purview. And it then works his way through the courts. And then he's counting on the Supreme Court to say, yeah, he can do it. Whatever it is. Yeah, he can do it. So one of the things he did was he fired, I think, 2 members, didn't he? Maybe just 1 member of the National Labor Review Board. The National Labor Review Board, they decide all labor disputes, union disputes. They also just, if a union wants to be recognized, it has to go through the NLRB. If a company is stopping workers from having their rights in trying to facilitate a union, that would go through the NLRB. The reason Trump fired a member, which many say he's not allowed to do, is because now there's not a quorum on the NLRB, which means nothing can go through, which is good for big business, right? As long as nothing's going through the NLRB, then no one can create a union and no one can complain about what big business is doing, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of reasons. It's also good for Elon Musk because Tesla has a million things being seen by the NLRB. But traditionally, that would be illegal for Trump to fire a member of the NLRB, but it will likely go to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court decides to see that case, then considering he has a 6-3 majority on the court, they'll likely say, yeah, Trump, go ahead, take all of the powers, creating what is considered a unitary executive, where it's like the president is all that matters. And of course, that pushes us further and further to true, like on its face fascism. We're already in a form of fascism, but a lighter kind of inverted totalitarian fascism. This would be a true one dude, strongman fascism. Civil service, the system of career public servants carrying out core functions of the government. In 1882, Congress passed the Civil Service Reform Act, which aimed to create a merit-based system based on personal qualifications. This replaced what was referred to as a spoils system, where the winning candidate appointed loyalists to all top posts. So many of these civil servants really don't change position between administrations. But Trump wants to fundamentally alter the civil service by creating a new category of government worker called Schedule F. Public sector workers who are given the Schedule F status, which I think stands for Schedule Go Fuck Yourself, would lose their protections from being unjustly fired. This would allow Trump and Musk to move forward more quickly with mass layoffs. Office of Management and Budget. This agency is responsible for helping prepare the annual federal budget that must be passed by Congress and overseeing the implementation of the budget. While it cannot unilaterally add or cut money from the program's budget, decisions and recommendations made by the OMB radiate out through the rest of the government. The current head of OMB is one of the creators of Project 2025. And did I already say this at the beginning? Maybe I did. Maybe I failed to say this. They're calling this article like defining the billionaire's coup. Basically, you need to know about the things Trump is going after in order to understand how this billionaire's coup is going about. I already think we're already owned by billionaires. This system, the democracy is already rigged by billionaires. The difference is just how directly are the millionaires in the Oval Office, or are they just the ones funding the people in the Oval Office so the people in the Oval Office never go against them? The latter one, funding them, we've been under that for years. The people in power were not going against the most powerful, richest people in the world for decades. But this is a coup to take us that next step in our collapsing empire, that next step to having the billionaires literally standing there at the computer pushing the buttons, deciding how the society is going to work. And Trump has more billionaires in his cabinet. Of course, he's a billionaire. More billionaires in his cabinet than anyone. And normally there'd be one or two. Now there's like 13. And so it literally is just a billionaire takeover of the government. Again, I think you can act like this is unprecedented. And it's unprecedented to see the billionaires in the White House. It's not unprecedented for them to control the White House. That part is not that old. Les Watts says, great to have Redacted back. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Les. Of course, it's called Unredacted. Completely different thing. Totally different. Anyway, impoundment. When the president refuses to spend money on programs that are part of the federal budget passed by Congress. This is important because the one power really Congress had left, I mean, Congress doesn't do shit all anymore, but the one power they had left is the budget, right? The purse strings. And now Trump is saying, yeah, I don't even want to follow that. If something's been approved in the budget by Congress, already passed, already signed, I want to still say, I'm the president, I don't have to do it. Nah, I don't like it. Which, of course, is taking away the only final power that Congress seemed to ever utilize. Richard Nixon abused this so often that Congress passed the Impoundment Control Act in 1974 to ban the practice. But now Trump and Musk want to go to the courts to overturn the Impoundment Control Act. So they're trying to, again, take all of the power. And the other thing is, when the Democrats tend to get in power after something like this, they never give the power back. Like, when the Democrats finally got into power after Bush and mass surveillance had been revealed, they didn't undo mass surveillance. They didn't decrease the NSA. They never, it shows how little the Democrats are different from the Republicans. The Republicans take all this power. The Democrats get into office and just keep it. So how are they? They act like they're the fighters against Republicanism. They're not. They're the same, two cheeks of the same backside. District court, a court responsible for holding trials involving federal law. So when Trump does these things, they first go to the district court. They then go to the appeals and the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court does not take everything. So the Supreme Court may just ignore a lot of these that Trump brings to them. But because it's Trump and because it has to do with the president, they'll probably take a lot of what Trump wants to happen. And as I said, he has a 6-3 majority, which means they're almost always going to side with him. And of course, that 6-3 majority is in so many ways the fault of the Democrats. The Democrats, for one thing, they Pied Piper Trump, right? That was in the leaked emails. Hillary Clinton and her team wanted to Pied Piper Trump because they thought he'd be easy to beat. They also, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they failed to talk her into stepping down, even though she'd had cancer, I think, 3 times under Obama. And instead, she just stayed in there and then died under Trump. And then he got to pick the replacement. So yet again, fault of the Democrats, fault of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And also when there was actually an opening in the court at the end of Obama's term, and the Republicans in Congress made sure that Obama did not get to choose who the replacement was. so that then Trump got into office and he was able to pick that replacement that actually became empty under Obama. The same thing happened under Trump, where you had a spot open towards the end of Trump's final year or whatever, halfway through Trump's final year. And unlike what Obama did, which was just throw up his hands and go, oh, I guess I can't have that, Trump forced his through while the Democrats didn't. So there you have yet another reason that this 6-3 court is thanks to the Democrats. And then the final thing I always like to remind people is, yes, the 3 Democrats on the court and the 6 Republicans are different on some things, but they're not night and day different. They agree with each other roughly 90% of the time. Because Merrick Garland, who was Obama's pick for the Supreme Court, who did not get on, actually sat on an appeals court bench with Kavanaugh, who was Trump's pick for the Supreme Court. And they agreed 91% of the time. That's your difference. Your difference between the Democratic picks and the Republican picks for the Supreme Court is 9% of what comes before the court. Trump's administration officials have openly considered simply ignoring judges who try to get in the way of the billionaires' coup. Judges at any level can hold officials in contempt of court for refusing to obey the rulings, but you know who would have to serve those or arrest Donald Trump for contempt of court? The U.S. Marshals Service, which is controlled by the White House and the Attorney General. So something tells me Trump's not going to arrest himself for ignoring the court. Budget reconciliation. That's when the House and Senate come together and decide on the budget. Normally the budget, most things that come before the Senate could be filibustered, right? And then they need a 60 vote, which would allow Democrats to block it. But the budget cannot be filibustered. So therefore, Trump and his goons put everything they've ever wanted in the budget to make sure it can't be filibustered. And then this last one they have here, Inspector General, an official assignment to a department of the federal government to ensure the proper ethical and legal procedures are followed and to audit the work of the agency. This role was established by the Inspector General Act of 1978. In his first week in office, Trump fired 17 inspectors general assigned to various parts of the government. An inspector general is supposed to function more as an independent watchdog than a partisan official of an administration. So this move eliminates potentially disloyal figures who could hamper Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. True. However, they also generally don't. Like the inspectors general don't. How many presidents have you seen taken down by the inspectors general? Like they don't really inspect that much. They're kind of in line with the government to begin with. But all of that is good to understand in order to see what is happening right now. There, again, the article's calling it the billionaires' coup. But like I said, this country has been owned by billionaires for a while now. It's just in our faces now. They're front and center. Okay, I ran out of time for this, but I'm going to do five or 10 more minutes because I have to get to some of this stuff about Israel. Here is the thank you speech. I'll just play some of it from the 2 directors who won. What was the name of the film? One Palestinian director and one Israeli director. But here's what they had to say when they won the Oscar last night.
Thank you to the Academy for the award. It's such a big honor for the 4 of us and everybody supported us for this documentary. About 2 months ago, I became a father.
Sorry, the documentary is called No Other Land.
And my hope to my daughter that she will not have to live the same life I'm living now, always fearing settlers violence, home demolitions, and forest spill displacements that my community, Masafir Yatta, is living and facing every day under the Israeli occupation. No other land reflect the harsh reality that we have been enduring for decades and still resist as we call on the world to take serious actions to stop the injustice and to stop the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people.
We made this film, Palestinians and Israelis, because together our voices are stronger. We see each other. The atrocious destruction of Gaza and its people, which must end. The Israeli hostages brutally taken in the crime of October 7th, which must be freed. When I look at Bassel, I see my brother, but we are unequal. We live in a regime where I am free under civilian law, and Bassel is under military laws that destroy his life and he cannot control. There is a different path, a political solution without ethnic supremacy, with national rights for both of our people. And I have to say, as I am here, the foreign policy in this country is helping to block this path. And, you know, why? Can't you see that we are intertwined? That my people can be truly safe if Bassel's people are truly free and safe? There is another way.
Beautifully said. And I'm glad they won. It's good to see it at least said once at the Oscars. You know, the Oscars love to have bullshit political statements like when Zelensky appeared at the Oscars, but occasionally you get an actual important statement. I'll just wrap up by pointing out that Israel is now blocking all aid to Gaza in violation of the ceasefire. It's the end of phase 1 of the ceasefire. Phase 2 was supposed to begin, but it needed to be hashed out, and I don't think there's been any hashing out. So I think what it is Israel has realized that they can, that they'll be more accepted. Wow, Clementine, thank you so much for supporting the show. Israel has realized that it'll be more accepted internationally, or at least more ignored internationally, if they kind of stop bombing and instead just kill everyone with famine. Like that seems to be where this is headed. Now, I could be wrong. They could start bombing again tomorrow, and maybe this famine was just a lead up to that. But they are certainly cutting off all of the food, and it's really repulsive. But everything Israel does is repulsive. I mean, there is nothing that is even human done by Israel. Israel has accepted a proposal brought by U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff to extend the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire and prisoner exchange agreement for another 42 days, facing rejection from the Hamas movement. As a result of Hamas's rejection, which stems from the resistance movement's insistence on abiding by the terms of what was initially agreed upon. So they're pointing to the fact that Israel has already been breaking the agreements. The extension deal agreed to by Netanyahu calls for the release of half of the estimated 22 living captives in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Yeah, it's basically like Israel breaks the ceasefire in a multitude of ways and then accuses, and then Hamas says, we're not exchanging any more prisoners until you abide by it. And then Israel says, see, Hamas didn't abiding by it. That's what we're saying. That's what Israel's doing. Here's Egypt and Qatar accuse Israel of violating humanitarian law by blocking aid into Gaza. And Israel is informing aid groups that the army, the IDF, will remain in post-war Gaza. Because that's what you do when you commit genocide, is you keep your army there. The Israeli military is planning to remain in Gaza and exert tighter control of the Strip, quote unquote, following the war, according to a plan presented by the Israeli authorities to the UN. The plan calls for the Israeli forces to distribute aid supplies through tightly managed logistics hubs, as if Israel wasn't already tightly managing every calorie that goes into Gaza. Yeah, it needs to be a little more tightly managed because, Gaza was just totally free to come and go as they please before now. The plan would allow entry into Gaza only through the Israel-controlled Kerem Shalom border crossing. while the southern Rafah crossing to Egypt, Gaza's traditional door to the outside world, would be permanently closed. So Israel, so the Rafah crossing was the only one that was not controlled by Israel prior to October 7th. It was controlled by Egypt. It's the only one. And Israel has now shut that off and is holding the land by that opening in order to make sure that Gaza's disconnected from Egypt as well. And so now Israel, I mean, this many months now, Israel controls every crossing into or out of Gaza. Okay. I'm going to wrap up there, but I have another live stream tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. In a couple of weeks, these live streams will only stay up for about 2 hours after I go live. And then if you want to get them after that time, it'll be, you can either become a member at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp. You can get them that way. Or you can listen to them on the podcast, and you can get them that way. If you want to get them for free, they'll still be up on the podcast. But I'm doing that for two reasons. One is because I'd love for you to become a member, but the other reason is it apparently impacts the algorithm and everything if all of my stuff stays up all the time. So I'm going to try that in a couple of weeks. These live streams will still be free to watch live or for a couple hours after, and then they'll become member only or on the podcast. And one last time, if you want to see Unredacted tonight, it is the easiest place to remember is probably linktree.com/leecamp. It's right there at the top, linktree.com/leecamp. And that would be amazing. If you're listening to this on a podcast, whether it's called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify or Moment of Clarity on Apple Podcasts, I hope you will rate it. Give me a rating because the ratings actually matter. And let your friends know about Unredacted tonight. That's how it'll keep going if you spread the word. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.